Welcome, welcome, welcome. The latest edition of Office Hours. Here we are, rocking and rolling into the fall. Great to see everybody, which will all load in here as we get started today, talking about setbacks and really how to make the most of them because they're going to happen. Question is, are you being proactive about it? Maybe getting ahead of the next one? Or are you being reactive and maybe making them worse? So, food for thought. We're going to dive right in today and see if we can make some progress. Let's see who's here today. Mike, great to see you as always. Team Bronx, good to see you as well. Finally bit the bullet. I'm failing over and over again. Started real time writing down my emotions while I trade. Wow, game changer. Create space, detaches me a bit. Fantastic. Yeah, bit the bullet. Was it really that painful? I mean, it's not like I was asking you to, I don't know, go under the knife here. But, I suppose sometimes a mental or emotional examination is tougher than, we all make it out to be. I mean, it doesn't have to be that tough, but society still trying to embrace this side of the coin here. So glad you are. Dr. Blueberry, hello, welcome. This might be the first time I've seen you here, so welcome. RV Life, great to see you. Keanu, great to see you as well. So lazy, yeah. It's you know my feeling about laziness, right? Calling yourself lazy is lazy, right? There's motivation or things that were blocking you from being able to do that. Anyway, let's see who's here. Tropical Trader, good to see you as always. Marcus Aurelius, welcome back from the dead. Read both your books, and frankly, the poker one helped me with my trading the most. Interesting and maybe a little sad about the trading book. I don't know. Post a little more. I'm curious why the poker what book helped you more. Maybe was it just shorter, easier to get through? Johnny and Mandy, welcome. Glad you love the book. Good to see you as always. Don Morgan, Olga, Roland, Martin. Got a good crew here today. Welcome to all of you. So before we dive into today's topic, two things. First, out of the gate, if this is your first time to Office Hours, welcome. And if it's not, and you've been enjoying it, please share it. Right? We're going on now over 2 years. There's always people out there who could use some support. It's free. Come get your questions answered. And let's rock and roll. Have some fun as we dive into the depths of our mental and emotional issues. And yeah, so there we go. Chris, good afternoon to you as well. All right. Second thing, a little exciting. It's a lot exciting for me. It's been something I've been working on a lot lately, which is the mental game of trading live. So this started as a beta test back in May, did it for 5 months. You can see this rolling scroll bar of testimonials of those in the program, the beta test that got a lot out of it. I've now turned it into a full-fledged program. It is up, running, available for you to sign up. It's just for traders. And there's 2 tiers of membership, premium membership and essential membership. And really it's, again, like a way to get coaching, accountability, community, feedback on a regular basis at a fraction of the cost of my one-on-one coaching. And you can learn more about the differences between the tiers of membership, which primarily kind of come down to the amount of like direct feedback you're going to get from me. As a premium member, you're basically getting exactly what the beta test got, which are these 5 strategy sessions per month. These are 1 hour, effectively like kind of group coaching sessions where I'm going to be answering your questions, reviewing worksheets, a little bit like Office Hours, but more personalized because I'm going to get to know all of you. And you're going to have a profile with a lot of detail on you, what you're struggling with, and we're going to have an opportunity to create an ongoing interaction weekly, and ideally over a good chunk of time. Right, the premium membership is available monthly. It's really kind of set out to be on a quarterly rotation. Essential members do not get to participate in the strategy sessions, but they get to watch the recordings of them, and there will be an opportunity through a mailbag to submit questions and worksheets, etc., and get some feedback there as well. and everybody is eligible for 15 minutes of individual coaching. I say eligible, right? Not everybody's going to get it, but I'm going to be kind of selectively plucking people out who I believe will provide value both, individually and collectively. And to give you just a quick preview of the platform, here it is. Right, this is the Mental Game Trading Live platform. It looks effectively kind of like a, customized Facebook page, but just with a lot more functionality. Okay, so you can see here, there's a page for important concepts and terms, worksheets you can download. Here are all the 31 past strategy sessions that you can go in and review, see things. Right, there's an essential member section as well as a premium member section. And one of the things that I'm most excited about is this knowledge base. So it's basically a collection of content on every single aspect of my system, giving you recorded reviews of selected worksheets and questions and Q&A, video reviews. So you can kind of very quickly find, examples to better understand how to do data collection or mapping. If you have some questions, right? Maybe their questions have been answered here before. Some examples of profiles and maps, video reviews of mental hand histories, and then obviously some additional content on any one of the major mental game topics. So this knowledge base is going to continue to get built out over time and provide a kind of a robust resource to be able to access kind of on demand whenever you want it, wherever you are. And that actually is one of the coolest features of this program too. As you can see, it's available as an iOS or Android app. So you can basically join strategy sessions wherever you are, or kind of participate in the community, and or get your questions answered, access resources whenever you want. So Mental Game Trading Live, let me give you the URL where you can go and participate. Anya, didn't realize there's an app. There's an app. You can very easily go to it. I know you're on the platform already, which is awesome. Yeah, just scroll down to the bottom of the platform, and you'll see a link where you can download it. So yeah, jaredtendler.com / the Mental Game of Trading Live. Sign up. Premium membership is limited to 100 traders, so there's a little bit of a time sensitivity there. All right, so let's get to our main topic of the day. And of course, if anybody has questions for me today, post them now, right? I'm going to get to them. I've got some questions that came in advance, but of course, as always, I'm happy to answer all of your questions, whether it's related to our topic today, being able to leverage a setback, whether it's related to any mental game issue you have, right? This is not just for traders. Right? I'm working with poker players, golfers, esport athletes, and many others. So whatever you want to learn about for yourself to improve your performance, post in the chat. I will get to it shortly. But as for our main topic today, leveraging a setback. So when we think about just the idea of leveraging a setback, I mean, the basic premise is, can you use it to your advantage? Okay? And I think so often setbacks create a lot of damage. When I look at some of the scar tissue that builds up, the accumulated emotion that builds up, a lot of times it comes from the chaos, the emotional intensity of a setback, and it creates that scar tissue. It creates a little bit of trauma that ends up kind of reverberating, into the future. And so the basic point is that a lot of you struggle dealing with setbacks in such a significant and profound way that it ends up holding you back. And that to me is an absolute travesty, because all it takes is just having the right perspective about a setback. And when you have that perspective, it completely, I think, can change not the frequency of them, okay? Because having the right perspective doesn't immediately mean you're going to prevent all future ones, right? It doesn't even mean you're going to prevent the ones that are, kind of on the purview of you being able to solve. But it's going to at least change your reaction to them, help you to recover from them faster, and again, make sure that they're not something that is really holding you back. Okay, so to truly leverage it, right? I think the perspective is that when they happen for predictable reasons that you didn't understand. And even if you did see it coming, you didn't have the strength or vision clear enough, or for you to be strong enough in terms of being able to correct it to avoid that from happening. So when we look retrospectively, every setback that you experience is predictable once you kind of look at the details of what kind of led to it and what caused it, right? So if it's predictable in hindsight, that means we have the potential to better see the warning signs that come in advance, right? So that we can minimize the severity of that downswing, minimize the severity of that drawdown, and be able to recover from it faster. And I say drawdown and downswing because, but realistically, when we talk about a setback, I'm not talking about having a drawdown that occurs when you've made every decision correctly, right, in a vacuum, right? You wouldn't do anything different. You of course could learn something afterwards that maybe your strategy isn't actually you know right for this particular market. There needs to be some adjustments. Regime has changed things, right? Or from a poker standpoint, right? It's just pure variance. Right? You're not going to make many decisions differently, and so that's not really to me a setback, right? Yes, obviously it takes a hit to your account balance or your bankroll, but the setbacks are what happens in reaction to those circumstances, or it can happen after a lot of success, where all of a sudden you start performing poorly again, right? To me, a setback is like more of a prolonged period of underperformance, right? That is ultimately kind of you have the potential being in control of, okay? Not just bad results. A setback doesn't mean just have bad results. It's bad results plus bad performance. And it's the bad performance that, of course, is predictable in the rearview mirror. And of course, we can then kind of understand what leads to it, right? So, first thing you got to do is understand like what is causing them. And all of you have been here before, so why not look back on previous ones? Maybe even the ones that really stand out to you as being particularly painful still, and try to change your perspective on them, right? How did they happen? Why did they happen? What caused it? Ask inquisitive questions that get you thinking in a way that is far more pragmatic and practical versus being really kind of harsh, punitive, negative, fearful, lacking confidence that it happened. Okay. You obviously can't change the past, but you can change your perspective on the past and especially use the information that you know, can gather from it to better inform you of what goes on. So, what are some commonalities, right? Well, yeah, like as I said, there can be some bad variance or negative, short-term outcomes that then lead you to overreacting, can lead to revenge trading, right? To overconfidence. Well, not when a downswing, usually overconfidence, but can lead to fear, obviously tilt, and a lot of mistakes that kind of ensue on top of it. So there oftentimes are uh, like kind of the snowball effect where maybe some short-term losses you can kind of handle, but then at a certain point, then you start forcing the issue, forcing hands, forcing trades, and making some mistakes that then kind of lead to more losses, more tilt. Things get worse, and there's a bit more damage that ensues mentally and emotionally, and ultimately to your bankroll or bank account, your account balance. On the flip side, sometimes setbacks have to happen just because you went on vacation, you got ill, right? There was an extended period of time off where, right, there's a setback in terms of your performance, not because you did anything wrong. It's just kind of the nature of taking time off. You lose the momentum, the continuity that you had before. You come back, maybe expecting a bit too much, underperform, and then things kind of snowball the other way. I mentioned overconfidence. Overconfidence is a big one, right? You're doing well for a while, feeling kind of in command, and then all of a sudden, right, there's a big blow up, big mistakes, some variance against you. You make things worse, compound it, and then you're in trouble again. So the difficulty is like in the aftermath, it's just easy to kind of feel shell shocked, to become a bit like detached, numb. You taking extended break just to kind of get your head right, which is smart to do, but it's not like you're not going to recover just from taking time off, right? The recovery is going to come from what you do in sort of the forensic analysis of what the heck just happened. And so the number one thing that you can do in the aftermath is just take a bunch of notes down about what happened. Okay. It will actually help you to feel a little bit better faster because you are doing something productive that is helping you better understanding what the hell happened, right? What led to it? What were some of the kind of the holes and the pitfalls, things that you fell into, maybe even things that you were aware of, but just didn't, weren't able to kind of stay on top of it. I mean, it's tough to be prepared for all of the potential things that can cause, a setback. But the more that you are able to kind of solve for it, and as you keep climbing, right, you kind of check off the options for things that can derail you. You know, so maybe early on, uh, your reaction to losses is the thing that takes you down. But you get a lot better at your reaction. But then overconfidence becomes kind of the next thing to check off, and so that's the thing that derails you. And then it's overreacting to, let's say, short-term moves in the market, or big wins or big losses, right? So they're kind of the big outliers become the size of the setback. So like the point is, right, as you continue to progress, we want to solve for the cause of those setbacks, and it's in the aftermath when you can begin to better understand what's going on and then begin to develop a strategy. And when you develop that strategy, right, your job is to stay vigilant, right? To again, I think overconfidence is just one of those that just sneaks up on a lot of people, especially after they've done a bunch of work on their mental game. And the potential for negative reactions to setbacks is going to be there for a while. And so the vigilance is not like every day kind of thinking negatively, but it's just easy for traders, poker players, golfers, right, et cetera, to kind of show up to each day with this sort of today's a new day attitude when things are beginning to kind of go bad, rather than really embracing what is kind of causing things to go off. And I'm not saying that you show up down and gloomy, but like being a little bit delusional, like that today's a new day, the slate is wiped clean, right? Everything that just happened in the past is the past. It's just a little, I think, it leaves you vulnerable, leaves you unprepared, especially for some smaller things to go wrong, versus showing up saying, all right, I don't have full control over the outcome today. I'm going to do the best that I can to take care of these things, especially the things that I know are problematic for me, whether it be tilt, FOMO, greed, lacking confidence. Prepare for that and be pragmatic and vigilant about their presence when you see them. And that's the basis of developing a robust mental game strategy. So that vigilance is really about being more proactive, right? You have a strategy in place for what you're going to do to prevent the setbacks from occurring for reasons that you already know. And if they happen again, you go back to what you're going to do in the aftermath and take a bunch of notes down to better understand what happened, because it may not be an exact replication of what had occurred before. And that can be a little inspiring. It can be a little motivating when you realize that you've actually made progress, right? Your C game is less bad than it was before. I'm not saying it's fun, okay? I am saying it's motivating. I am saying it can build confidence, especially in the strategy, especially knowing that things are actually working, right? You're not kind of just lost. You are like the work that you're putting in is working. And now you kind of have some idea of what's next, because you've taken those notes down and you figured out, okay, well, now it is, um, more of an injustice tilt scenario. Now I just like feel like I'm doing everything I can. I've made tons of progress, and yet I'm still kind of getting unlucky. And now you're hating that, right? You want to have more control than you really do. So there's a kind of just an ongoing cycle of kind of progress that needs to be made here. But the bottom line is, to truly leverage a setback, it means developing a strategy based on what you've known before, and kind of making the most of the aftermath of it, so that you can figure out how much progress was actually made, and then what your next steps are going to be. So let's see if there are any questions related to my little rant here. All right, Wildcat Apollo. Is a setback weak, not of an optimal character, or is related to a weak or not optimal character? No. I mean, everybody has weaknesses. So the potential for a setback, again, I think comes when we're like unprepared to have the right perspective on negative or positive short-term outcomes. which can happen to anybody, really. I mean, yeah, like the best traders, best poker players, best golfers, et cetera, in the world, right? Their ability to recover and deal with setbacks is better than most. But I mean, I've seen them happen to a lot of great traders, poker players, golfers. It happens, right? So, is that related to character? I don't believe so. All right. Thanks, Jared. After I fixed gigantic losses, I eventually see some progress. Now the main problem is tilt after several losses in a row. But I'm digging already when I jump into the next trade. But digging into already why I jump into the next trade too soon. So yeah, that's great. All right. I see a question here. Rowan, any insight on how to avoid this or start this session from this place? I mean, look, you're talking about a shift in perspective, right? That's the beginning of this. So many of you, I think, are like just flat-footed. You're unprepared for the potentiality, the potential of a setback, the potential of a downswing, the potential of a drawdown. And I'm not saying that you're going in with a negative, pessimistic attitude, like, oh, it's going to happen. Why try hard? It's like, no, just be prepared, be opportunistic, right? Here's my strategy. If this happens, break glass, right? Here's my strategy. Here's what I'm going to do. So again, I think it's the mentality of vigilance that were things to go wrong, I'm prepared. And you can understand how that would build a lot of real balanced, solid, stable confidence when you have that kind of preparation versus this sort of what I would call weak optimism that is trying to make yourself feel good, feel opportunistic, feel optimistic about what's going to happen today, but you're kind of flat-footed or blind to like the real problems that can ensue that can begin to derail you. And it only takes one day to begin kind of that downward spiral to a setback. I'm not saying that every time you have a bad day that you're automatically going to have a setback and make things a lot worse and yada yada yada, but I'm saying that it's got to start somewhere. And so like why give yourself the option or the opportunity for that to occur? Be prepared, be vigilant, be ready, and understand that at a minimum, right? Your preparation. Maybe I'm making this more complicated than it is. Your preparation, as far from a basic level, could just be if it happens, I'm going to take a boatload of notes afterwards and better understand what the hell happened. Like our friend, Bronx here, who finally is doing some of the data collection. That's it. Just do that. Shit hits the fan. Here's how I'm going to react. I'm going to take a boatload of notes. I'm not going to be butthurt. I'm not going to just go, lock myself in a dark room and, woe is me and yada, yada, yada. I'm going to do something about it. And being active and proactive like that is far more effective than going out drinking, even just going out and doing yoga and going for a run and making yourself feel better, right? 100%, right? That's a nice, healthy activity, but you're distracting from the opportunity to gain information that is going to help you to prevent future setbacks for the same flippin' reason. So that's it. And then of course, the better you understand that, let's just say tilt is the main reason that you're going to get derailed. Well, then you develop a strategy against tilt and you're ready in case it wasn't that and you get derailed for another reason. I love how your book refers to examining the fragments of the bomb to get to the underlying cause. Yeah, so I actually talk about that in the blog as well. So those that didn't see the blog this week or this month, it's When Setbacks Strike, right? Just came out. Just go to resources and check out the blog. Yeah, and I talk about the exact same thing, right here. Right. Think of your problems as a volcano. When it erupts, it spews out the data you need to actually understand and solve the problem. In general, the bigger the blow up, the closer you get to the core of the issue. The lava is coming from deep within because big problems are complicated. And then it's up to you to capture all the details of what came out of that blow up, making sense of it, and developing a strategy. Okay. So great, Laura. Thank you for pointing that out. Appreciate that. Roland, I did not see the previous context of your question. So, okay, there it is. Okay, so maybe I got a little ahead of myself here with your. I tend to take losses early in the session and dig myself into a hole, but for some reason this triggers me to get into a state, the zone, in order to get it to trade back. Okay, so yeah, very different question for you in particular, but at least your previous what I saw question prompted a little rant on my end. Okay, performance stress curve. Here. Of course, I got to pull it out of the book today just because I don't have my handy dandy references. Let's see how quickly I can find it. There it is. All right. This. Okay, your stats and law. You're on the low energy side of that spectrum, right? So what it's describing is the relationship between performance and emotion, arousal, stress, right? And as your emotion stress rises, right, your performance rises until a point. And then if your emotions rise too much farther, right now your performance starts to drop. So emotion energy is too low, emotion energy is too high, you suck. We're trying to find that ideal point at the top of that curve. So for you, you need losses to be a kick in the ass to get you into a higher state, which means that you need to do a better job preparing yourself at the start to get yourself already more energized. So you're in a kind of a higher level state to begin with. All right. I think, yeah. I'm going to get to a few other questions that came in from you all now, and then I'm going to get to the questions that came in advance. Let's see. All right, Tanya's asking, how much data collection is enough of a sample size until you can determine what your main emotional issues or patterns are? So data collection has a couple purposes. One, right, you're going to gather, right, the details, whether it be, right, triggers, thoughts, emotions, reactions, behaviors, changes in perception. And as you collect data day in and day out, trade after trade, situation after situation, what you're going to see are the recurring patterns. And I think many of you kind of know what they are at a higher level at the beginning, but when you do the data collection, it's going to give you a more kind of precise vision into what the big recurring problems are with a lot of details surrounding them. So once you feel like, and this is a little subjective, that you have enough information about those problems, then you can kind of move on to a mental hand history. And if you have enough data surrounding, kind of the preceding or factors that come afterwards, then it gives you an opportunity to create, the map and begin kind of profiling it. So you can be kind of seeing the early warning signs and kind of starting to kind of get ahead of it and direct correct it early. But so again, it's a little subjective, but I would say if you've been doing this for 7 to 10 days, odds are pretty good, especially if the mistakes are reoccurring. You're gonna have plenty of data to go on, but sometimes it's within a few days. Traders, poker players, right? You've got enough information because it's not like you're starting from scratch, right? The data collection process is just a more robust way of getting information on things you already know. This is not inventing something new. So you're bringing in then your past experience along with the current data. Again, subjectively, you can kind of decide when it's enough. How to bring up to speed when setbacks kick in. It happens to me when I have big losses, takes a break, and then takes a while to get back, like 2 to 3 weeks. You will be surprised at how much faster you'll mentally recover when you take a lot of notes down, right? Sometimes the mind is really overwhelmed, right? Volcano just blew up. And, dealing with all that data in your mind mentally can be very hard to deal with, A, and B, it becomes hard to kind of figure out what the heck just happened. So when you are writing out a lot of notes, from a data collection standpoint, from just a pure journal, just like writing what happened, you're going to be able to kind of see it in a way that you can't normally. And I've used this example before, but it's kind of like trying to complete a puzzle, right? If you had a puzzle that had no picture on it, you're just kind of handed a box of pieces. Even 100-piece puzzle would be difficult to solve if all you could do is grab 5 to 7 pieces and then look at them. And then you put them all back in and you can grab another 5 to 7 pieces. Right. And that's what happens when you're trying to kind of make sense of these setbacks in your mind. Your mind has a limited capacity. But when you do a lot of writing, it's like grabbing a handful of pieces, looking at them, putting them on the table, and then you can grab another 5 to 7 pieces. You can look at them, and that's it. You just, intuitively would makes you makes it easier for you to be able to kind of start to make sense of what just happened. And when you feel productive about a big setback, after a big loss, after big blowouts, I'm telling you, it's just there's just a different feeling about it. I'm not saying that you're immediately going to feel better, but you don't feel quite as hopeless. You don't feel quite as lost, right? You might feel more overwhelmed and confused, which is way better because you're feeling overwhelmed and confused because you have because you like you're just like working the problem versus just kind of avoiding it and waiting until you naturally feel better. So you will shrink that recovery time significantly by doing that. All right. I'm going to get to some of the questions that came in advance, and then I'll be back to answer the questions from you all. All right, from Mark, why some days my mind recognizes the entries exactly on point, but some days market reversed right after my entry. Love the book, by the way. Cool, appreciate it. So I would have a different answer for you if you said, why on some days does my mind recognize the entries exactly on point, but on other days, I'm not able to see things as clearly? If you said that, I would suggest to you that data collection would be great for you to do, that there's likely either some emotion at play in those moments or you're lacking energy in some moments. Okay. But because you didn't frame it that way, I think there's a little fishiness going on here that maybe you think that you're doing something wrong because the market reverses right after your entry, when that could be completely just the market and not something you have control of. So my suspicion here, Mark, is that you're early into trading and you need to understand that there's an element of variance, right? The variability in market conditions, that means that you don't control outcomes, right? Which I suggest, or I suspect that you believe to a certain degree. I have such a low threshold for tilting during trading. Almost immediately, if something does not go as planned, I can convince myself not to chart my emotions, change my plan, and ignore my rules. How can I stay more intentional in the moment? I believe in the past you've told me I need to recognize my emotions earlier. I'm rereading your book and think my inchworm is spread out. My A game has improved, but my C game is awful. I usually only trade for about an hour at the open, so things go fast and furious to start. Garrett. And Garrett, I believe you are here, in which case I think you're already making some progress using the data collection worksheet, which is fantastic. But we kind of go back to this part of it, is like, I can convince myself not to chart my emotions, change my plan, right? If you have such a low threshold for tilting during trading, you have accumulated emotions, right? And so the problem is not what's happening while you're trading. The problem is that you're walking in just like already ready to explode. That level of emotional buildup is just not something that many people can contain, if any, really. So to handle the situation means you've got to do maybe not necessarily the charting, although now if you're talking about the data collection helping, cool, but like the mental hand history to better kind of chop through what you're tilted about before you even start. So you very easily just like write down before, like an hour before you start trading, half hour before you start trading, right? What am I still pissed off about? What am I still tilted about before I even get started? Or what am I still emotional about before and just start there, and then see if you can actually kind of work through it using the remaining 4 steps of the mental hand history. That could be an additional thing you do in addition to the data collection. Reading the mental game of trading, and it's blowing my mind. Awesome. How do I start implementing the data collection worksheet and the ABC analysis instead of the journal or alongside? Is it instead of the journal or alongside of the journal? No, it does not have to be instead of the journal. So I think a journal, in terms of like journaling your trades and keeping all the data around your trades, that's separate. You could be writing down like a kind of a reflection on the day. What are the things you did well? What are the things you learned? What mistakes were made? what points of improvement are going to be made for the future. So like that kind of journaling might be more of kind of the macro overall of the day. Keep doing that. But from a like note taking during the trading session, that's all the data collection is, right? Print out the worksheet, right? It's freely available on the website, right? Just kind of let's go back here, right? Resources, worksheets, and you download the data collection worksheet right here. Okay, so print out and start taking those notes during the trading session, right? Whether it's in reaction to mistakes you made, whether it's in response to changes in your emotional state, changes in your mental state that are noteworthy, right? Then the A to C game analysis is going to come after you've gathered up a bunch of data, right? To be able to kind of firmly distinguish the differences between your A game, B game, and C game. And I would suggest that you can always do a draft immediately, okay? And just start with the things that are most obvious. What does it look like when you suck? What does it look like when you're great? Can you identify anything in between, right? The A to C game analysis is also, one of these worksheets here as well. Got the trading and poker A to C game analysis. All right. Next question. FOMO is mainly triggered by lower confidence. I placed some motivational quotes in front of my screen and they had a significant impact on me for a few days. However, over time, these quotes had only a limited effect when I missed an entry and started settling for mediocre setups. Should I regularly update my motivational quotes or should I delve more deeply into my FOMO? Those of you who are regulars here, seen my office hours before, I want you to just kind of test yourself what my answer is here. Just kind of in your own mind. You have to write in the chat. Bottom line is, right, the answer to your question is firmly in this first line. FOMO is triggered by lower confidence, so I'm going to solve my lower confidence by motivating myself. Okay, that does not work, right? You can't motivate yourself out of a weakness in confidence, right? There is clearly a flaw, bias, illusion, wish, something that is impairing your confidence, right? Confidence, motivation, they're both emotions. We're not going to use one emotion to correct the other. That's not how this game works. And I'm not by any means, Samir, criticizing you. This is a common question, problem, okay? And, many people that have been here longer, right? We're making the exact same mistakes and exact same kind of false perceptions around this. So the bottom line is, yeah, you have to delve deeper into not the FOMO, but the low confidence. What is the source of that, right? And if you want to go through the book and look at some of the flaws, biases, illusions, etc., that are common causes of weakness in confidence, great place to start. You can do a mental hand history and start kind of digging through it, because you're going to then create injecting logic statements that are going to directly correct the cause of your low confidence. The motivational quotes that worked for a time, they were basically just a form of like a placebo effect, right? This sugar pill that was temporarily allowing you to escape or control or manage that low confidence, but it wasn't actually doing anything corrective, right? I gave you a steroid to kind of heal this like severe damage to your muscle because you're a football player and you need to get back in the game. So but like doesn't heal the injury. It just temporarily kind of masks it so you can kind of get back in there. That's what you were doing. But you're going to need to keep coming up with these quotes to kind of get you in a better frame of mind, but you're not going to be solving the confidence. So again, my preference always is get to the heart of it, and you'll find something that could be far more long lasting. Is mapping out your emotions while back testing still as effective? If so, how would you do it? I mean, if you're talking about back testing your strategy, right? Your like, there may be like instances where you see a setup and it can give you a reaction, right? You can kind of try to feel like it would be what it would occur in the live market, which can give you some insight into what you will deal with if you're unsure or unaware of what those reactions can be. But if you're just sort of sitting there, just like kind of I don't know what emotions, how your emotions in that process would be helpful for trading. If you can come up with a good argument for me, I'm all ears. But I would say no. It's like much like being in the sim, if you treat backtesting or the sim like it's real in some way, shape, or form to give you some kind of trigger or response, then it's going to give you an opportunity to understand what you're going to be dealing with and can start to correct and deal with them then. I hesitate to enter plays only to see them run without me. I understand this comes from past fears of losing, but it's very hard for me to overcome this obstacle, even doing mental exercises. I'm not sure what mental exercises you're doing, but the idea of overcoming your fear is not like directionally kind of what we're trying to do here, right? We're trying to correct the roots of the fear and like eviscerate them, correct them, like resolve them so they go away. And so then the fear of losing just naturally dissipates also, right? Versus like overcoming it and trying to get past it, which is a bit like kind of the, motivational quotes and inspirational ideas that, many people do. And I suspect that you're doing the same thing. Instead, do the mental hand history. Define very clearly how the fear of losing shows up for you. Try to understand the logic and rationale for why that exists. What's the flaw, and work through it, more. I've got a blog, on the website called "Finding the Roots." So you just go on the blog and read through that one if you're unfamiliar with the mental hand history process. All right. So those are all the questions that came in advance. I'm going to now get to yours. Rating here. So let's see what we got here. All right, Team Bronx, Garrett, right? Good stuff. Love the puzzle analogy. Thanks. Yeah, that one I think is it's just so important to understand the bandwidth limitations of the mind. People expect to be able to naturally be able to work through their problems that are complicated in their own mind. And if it's simple, yeah, or it's not that emotional, right? Then oftentimes we can. We don't. It's not the puzzle analogy doesn't hold, but in a lot of cases, that's not the case. All right. So Zed, do you recommend writing down your thoughts and feelings during a trade? Only when they are problematic. I mean, if you're doing a zone profile and try to better understand what trading looks like when you're at your peak, then yes, like you can kind of write down your thoughts, feelings, etc., around what's going on when you're at your best. But I mean, I don't want to drive you all crazy, right? But so I'd focus mostly when your emotions or thoughts are problematic, or they feel like they're the warning signs of the beginning of a problem. That's when you do the data collection. That's when you're writing down your thoughts, feelings, actions, changes in market perception, the triggers, the actual mistakes you make, changes in your actions. All that data is what's going to help you to better create an understanding of a pattern, right? Much like you can see patterns in the market, you want to see patterns in yourself. That's how you're able to kind of leverage the opportunities that are in front of you. And then once you do that, right, you can mental hand history, get a better understanding of your root. From that understanding of the root, you can come up with a correction. Then you can start to use that correction and deploy it in real time to work through and reduce your negative emotions that are occurring in real time. All right. Let's see, we got other questions here or just a bunch of comments. Looks like you all enjoyed that analogy, which is always fun. Let's see. All right. Eliad, what do you recommend someone with perfectionist mentality, always needing to figure out what may have went wrong or how to maximize potential of every execution? So, out of the gate, let's just be clear. Like, perfectionism is not inherently a problem. Okay. And like, so the question becomes like, how is it problematic for you? Okay. Does it feel like your things are never good enough? Is it hard for you to be satisfied? Is it difficult for you to like kind of settle, like, or like take time away and relax because there's just like your mind is constantly going and you're unable to kind of get a break. So well, let's assume that for you, there are some clear downsides to perfectionism. In my experience, the source of perfectionism is in large part due to a faulty mechanism in how you evaluate yourself. So when you have this incredibly high standard, right, perfectionism, right, or high expectations, then like falling below that standard is met with some degree of negativity, which erodes confidence. It's only when you actually are perfect that you get any credit, or more commonly, you just feel like you escaped negativity, and it's like not really that enjoyable. It's just not painful. Okay. So, like, where's the opportunity to feel good, to feel like you're making progress, to feel like your work is successful and validating and, just like kind of happy and satisfied for it? It's like you don't, because the measuring stick is so screwed up that it's basically kind of condemning you to experiencing all this negativity. And as I said, that erodes confidence, develops what I call an accumulated debt, where you have this gap between like realized progress, right? So let's just assume that you're a trader who's trading full time, you're profitable. Okay. For you to get to that level, you've had to have had a lot of successes in your career. Okay? Even if you get to the point where you're break even, a lot of successes in your career. Right. Now, while you may not yet still be where you want to be, fine, you still are a lot farther along. And there's a lot of things you ought to feel good about. But when there's that gap between realized success, realized skill, accomplishments, etc., and what you feel, right, because of that high standard, that's where the debt occurs. So we're not trying to uh, like make up something for you to feel good about, but we're trying to change your perception of your past accomplishments and skills. And in order and when you do that, you begin to kind of rebuild confidence from the ground up, and it reduces the intensity and the velocity of your perfectionism. I've also written a blog on this. Okay, and again, since we're kind of referencing the blog here, let's just go back here. Let's see, where is it? Here it is. All right, the cost of perfectionism. Read this. Okay, there's an exercise. There's a worksheet. There's some perspective right here. As I'm talking about this faulty evaluation. Um, there's like 10 pages in the Mental Game Trading on this topic. Um, I promise you, what's here, the task to kind of recapture this false perception is different than how you're thinking about it. We are not directly attacking the perfectionism, right? The symptoms of the problem. We're directly correcting the faulty evaluation so you can recapture the lost confidence that you deserve. And when you do that, you create stability in your mind that automatically will decrease the velocity or intensity of that perfectionism. All right, David, and looks like we got time for about 10, 12 more minutes. And there's a few questions I'm going to get to. So if you have any other questions, by all means, post them. I'm an experienced trader. I trade one system. It's simple, and I see it every time. Over the course of 100 trades, my C game is skipping valid trade signals. I do not impulse trade or act out, but I'm skipping valid trades. Would love to hear your thoughts. My stats are not impacted, but this mistake is reducing the trades taken over time. And obviously, so I don't have like kind of an answer for why you're skipping valid trade signals. So I think what you've got to figure out is, first and foremost, like where do they tend to occur? Is it a particular time of day? Is it a particular like kind of situation or setup? Um, you know, and then like, is it some lack of emotion? Like, is it like boredom, fatigue, disinterest, uh, something like hunger, right? Kind of on the downside of the performance stress curve, right, where you're lacking enough energy, or is it on the flip side where there's some emotion at play, where maybe there's a little bit of fear, maybe a little bit of lack of confidence, and it could be lack of confidence in this particular setup. It could be lack of confidence at that particular time. But there is more data, I think, for you to uncover before you're going to kind of firmly understand what the problem is, right? The problem is not that you're skipping valid trade signals, right? That's the symptom of like kind of the real problem, which is maybe boredom, right? Maybe it's like during a sideways market, you get a little gun shy just from, kind of not being in a trade for an hour. On the flip side, it could be a little bit of emotion at play, right? That kind of is getting us closer to the problem, and I think you got to do that kind of data gathering in order to figure out what the next steps are to take. Dr. Blueberry, is there anything you recommend for when you recognize your emotions too late and the frontal cortex has potentially shut down to recover to some extent? I mean, it can be hard, but I think the best that you can do there is like rip yourself away from the desk and just take a few minutes, go for a short walk, and give yourself the opportunity to recover. Or it could just be like standing up, talking to yourself, short little break. But when your emotions are too hot, unless you've got really, really potent injecting logic that has been proven to work again and again, and it's just going to take a little bit of more effort in this particular moment to really kind of crack through it. But I'm not certain that that's where you are. I would say in the short term, it's get the heck out of there. As our friend Gordon says, eject. Agreed. Yeah, I think that's what you gotta do first. All right. Team Bronx, low confidence may be related to overestimating your technical skills. Yes, I know Jared told me this, and I did not take an honest look at my technical skills, and they need work too. Absolutely. Hey, Jared, read your book and followed all of the systems. I am consistently green now. Thank you for what you do. Love to hear that. It's nice to have a success story here as we get farther down the line here. All right, well, I'm out of questions here. I see nothing at the bottom of the chat. We got 8 minutes left. Y'all got anything you want to talk about? Go for it. If not, I got to do it. It's happening. Mental Game Trading Live. Sign up now. I mean, look, I can tell we're out of the gate here. Like this kind of launched last Thursday, which also happened to be my 45th birthday. So happy birthday to me. I figured why not launch on my birthday? Why did it be kind of fun? Anyway, yeah, we're out of the gate here, right? There's a lot of people getting value out of it already. You got access to all of those past beta sessions, right? So there's a lot of content here. I don't want to frame it that way in an overwhelming kind of way. But my point is, if you've got questions, if you've got things you need to deal with that, go beyond this 1 hour office hours, right? This is a place where you're going to have the opportunity to connect with like-minded traders, right? There's community sections for both essential and premium members. There's accountability challenges to kind of help you keep on track. I think one of the things that I've recognized for myself in the last kind of year or so, for me, golf is like kind of the apex of my competitive life. And, I've spent 2 years working with a personal trainer to rebuild my aging mobility and strength and flexibility. And, having her work with me regularly, I worked out regularly without her. Now, yes, she's given me better things to work on out of the gate. No questions asked. But there's a certain measure of extra effort I put in because I'm working with her. And that's kind of what these accountability challenges. And ultimately, you've got the opportunity to put together an accountability group as well, to find a group that you can kind of work with on a regular basis to help keep you accountable. And so that's available both for essential and premium members. So there's a lot here, right? And if you're looking for that extra support, the cost I think is quite minimal, right? $49 a month, $234 a month for one-on-one coaching. My one-on-one coaching, right out of the gate, first session with me individually is $750. So you're getting kind of like a full month of coaching for, we do the math quickly there, like 1/3 that price. I mean, come on, I think it's a no-brainer for many of you, but I understand that there are a lot of decisions to be made, and I'm not going to kind of force feed anybody anything. So, all right. That's my last pitch for the day. Appreciate the birthday wishes from several of you here. I see a couple more questions. Let's get at it. How to shake off the feeling of coming off a losing day. Write down what happened, man. Right? We've been talking about it a lot today. It's somehow the theme of the day is data collection. But when we're dealing with setbacks, whether it be on a single day or a regular one, right, they are like the best way is to figure out, kind of what happened, and just doing a bunch of writing, whether it be in journal form and data collection form, is a great way to better understand what happened, dump out that emotion, so that then when you go and kind of go move on with your life from the day, you're going to be able to recover faster. It's the last thing that most people want to do. I'm firmly aware of that. You do not want to, after feeling like crap, take a bunch of notes down, like kind of basically taking your head and shoving it back down in the mud and the crap that you were just mired in all day. I get it. Who wants to do that? Except you will feel better faster, A, and B, you will learn things that will help you to prevent from making any self-inflicted wounds, going forward in that. All right. Let's see what else we got here. Team Bronx, good to see you, man. Thanks for joining us as always. I'm more dialed in when winning than I am during losing sessions. This is relatively straightforward, but how do I mitigate this gap? Are you really more dialed in when you're winning, or are you just like happier and more confident, and that leads to it? What happens when you're losing? Are you losing confidence? Are you more emotional? So I don't know if it's like the mitigation of the gap. It's more of the, like, let's be really, really honest. Like, are you as good as you think you are when you're winning? Because overconfidence is very easily going to delude you and many others into thinking that you are. Okay. And on the flip side, then what is the gap when you're losing? But I think, like, first and foremost, right, let's at least understand what's occurring when you're losing. And once you understand that, right, then you have an opportunity to correct it. It's going to take some work, but that's what I've been talking about all session here, is how you can kind of do that. So Dr. Blueberry, thanks for the birthday there. Let's see. Martin, enrolled, credit card charged in the essential level last Thursday, but I have not seen any email confirmation. All right, Martin. Well, that's a problem. Well, here, just go to, I've got a contact here. Just click that button down there on the contact and email me, and I will make sure that you get a response. I mean, basically, you could also try this. Go to, so the platform exists on coaching.jaredtendler.com, right? Go there and put in your email address, and then click probably like forgot password, and it should kind of link you back in. All right, this is going to take me here, but right, if I log out, this is what you're going to see when you come to that page. So you just kind of click forgot password. That should be able to get you back in. All right. Happy birthday, Jared. I'm turning golden girl in a few days too. Well, happy early birthday to you. Congrats. That's awesome. I feel like I can only make 1 or 2 day trades a day, and then I'm spent. I feel that due to my attachment to gains. Yeah. So there's a, let me get rid of this thing. There's a thing called decision fatigue, right? And when you're in a trade, right, your mind is likely very, very overactive, especially if you're attached to gains. So, right, is that over attachment due to a weakness in confidence? Could be, right? So you can understand the fact that there is like a decision fatigue, right? A mental fatigue that's going to occur when you're using that much energy. If you're going to try to reduce energy, then to work through that attachment to gains, right? Work the process, collect some data around what does that attachment to gains really mean, right? How does it come out in terms of thoughts, in terms of emotions, physical signs, and then use the mental hand history to break it down and see what kind of corrections you can make. All right. Thank you. Bought your book. Very close. Just mental at this point. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, look, there's always more things to kind of work on technically. I understand that kind of inflection point when you get technically solid enough, and then the mental game needs to kind of catch up in order to, kind of reach the levels you want to. So that's great. Ryder Cup prediction. I mean, it's not a stretch. The U.S. is a deeper team, right? Top 6 versus top 6, man. It's like, whew. It's going to be exciting, but the U.S. team is for sure deeper. But I've seen this team implode many, many times. And I mean, Europe's strong. I mean, just because the bottom 6 are weaker on paper does not mean they're not going to show up when it matters, especially, kind of on home turf. But my prediction is U.S. wins very, very close. It's going to come to the end on Sunday and be a good sweat, unlike the last one, which wasn't that exciting. So, I'm rooting for high entertainment value, right? I want to see the US go up 4-0 in the morning sessions on Friday and then lose 4-0 on the morning session, the afternoon sessions, just for the excitement of it. I mean, I love the spectacle of the Ryder Cup. It is truly one of the greatest sporting events in the world. So, but yeah, I think the US is going to win. If I'm going to call a number, I'll say 15.5 to would that be like 12.5, 13.5? No, 12.5. Yeah. Anyway, all right. There will be losers and a strategy how to deal with them. Understand why you hate to lose. I mean, it's not that strategy, not that complicated. All right, everybody. That is it. I got to run to softball practice for my daughter. Great questions, great interactions. Wish you all well. Let's do a quick reminder for next office hours, October 18th, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 18:30 UTC. And the topic is being your best, because that is not something that you can do all the time, but it is something we can aspire towards. So let's figure out how to be your best more often and not expect to have it happen each time. All right, everybody. Have a great month. I'll see you next time. And yeah, be well.